Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Bell, Executive Director of the Florida Council on Economic Education. For nearly 40 years, the Florida Council has worked to prepare Florida's young people for personal and financial success through education programs in economics, the free enterprise system, and financial literacy. Our goal is that they become productive members of the workforce, responsible consumers, and wise investors. There's a national movement that continues in educational reform, but the emphasis on reading, writing, and arithmetic leaves out one very important aspect of literacy: how to manage money. So we're experiencing broad-based support for our efforts to advance a standalone half-credit course in financial literacy, and we want to reiterate that call today. Financial literacy is more than something that we would want or like for our students to know about. It's something that's essential. It's a life skill that is critical to their future success. If we don't act, the next generation of individuals and families won't be the only ones to bear the cost of financial illiteracy. It's too expensive to businesses, employers, governments, the economies of our state and our nation. All will suffer if we don't prepare young people to navigate their way through the world of personal finance. The average Florida college student graduates with $23,000 in student debt. Evidence-based research concludes that a course in financial literacy, particularly when paired with standards that are implemented and integrated through grades K through 12, high-stakes testing for accountability, and professional development for teachers, results in improved outcomes in student behavior when managing money. To speak to our cause, as you can tell, again, we have broad-based support. At this point, I'd like to introduce and welcome to the podium Jeff Simon, Senior Vice President, Investments with Simon & Associates of Raymond James, and Chair of the Florida Council on Economic Education Board of Directors.
Thank you, and thank you for coming. In the past 40 years, foreclosures in the United States have increased 2,200%. In the last 30 years, bankruptcies have increased 650%. And the largest group of people filing for bankruptcy are those 25 and under. There is a crisis. It's a financial crisis, and it's also a personal crisis. If you were to test high school students in Florida on the basics of financial literacy, they would get an average score of 50. Unacceptable. They are not well prepared to face the challenges that they have to face in our ever more complex society. But now the Florida legislature is on the verge of doing something very important about that. And the Florida Council on Economic Education and the business community is very excited about the prospects that are ahead, because Florida has the opportunity to mandate a full semester course in financial literacy and reverse the cycle of failure that so many young people are having when they get out into the workforce, and guarantee that they'll have success going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. It's my pleasure at this point to introduce Senator Dorothy Hukill, first elected to the Senate in 2012 and a member of the House of Representatives before that, who's introduced Senate legislation, and following Senator Hukill will be Representative Fitzenhagen, who is introducing House legislation.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning to talk about these important, very important bills. You know, what better knowledge can we provide to our students than to give them the skills to take charge of their financial futures, to manage their finances as they leave high school and enter the workforce or continue with their education, and throughout their life and as they prepare for retirement. This bill provides for one-half credit, a one-half credit course, full semester, a standalone course. While we now teach financial literacy as part of economics, this issue is much too important to relegate as part of a particular course. The states that do now require, and there are several that require this to be taught as part of other courses, the movement now is to require standalone courses. That's how important this is. I can tell you, when I spoke about this in my own district, of Volusia, Lake, and Marion counties, I can tell you what some of the young people said to me. One of the quotes we had of a 15-year-old young man said, "I think this would be a good class to take and should be required for all." One of my recent graduates said that she felt like she was being turned loose into the adult world and left to figure out how to deal with financial matters. And her mother said this is far, far overdue. You know, these are skills that you don't have naturally. You have to be taught these skills. We think that kids know how to do this. We think that parents are teaching these skills. Some kids are fortunate enough that have parents that can teach these skills. But for those who don't, and even for the ones who do get it at home, this really marries the skills they learn in other subjects. For instance, it brings math to life. You're actually using the math that you learn into real-life experiences of dealing with tuition, interest rate, leases, etc. We now know that this is feasible, and we know the costs are reasonable. It's time for us to move forward on making this a standalone course. People ask me a question, how can we afford this? And I say, how can we not afford it? That's really the position that we should be taking. I'm going to be seeking support from my senators. It's an issue I've worked on since I've been in the House, and it's very passionate to me. I do want to acknowledge my Senate co-sponsors so far. We have Senator Margolis, Senator Sachs, Senator Simpson, and Senator Latvaler. And of course, I will be pleased to work with someone who's very passionate about this issue, Representative Fitzenhagen in the House. And I urge you all to take a real close look at this, and really I hope that we can get this done this year. In fact, I know we can get this done this year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the representative.
Thank you, Senator Hugel. This is a great day for not only Florida's students, but Florida's businesses and Florida's parents, because with this legislation, when we graduate young people from our high schools, they will be able to balance their checkbook. And I think every parent and every business owner will be happy that we are going to be giving students the tools to be able to understand how to manage their credit and how to go into the workplace and not be overly burdened with debt, crushing debt from school loans, from credit cards, and improper use of their checking account. So I think that it behooves us to take this very important step to make it a standalone course, as they have done in 14 other states. I think it's been fantastic so far that we've introduced it in an overall economics class, but there's just way too much information for our students to be able to absorb in that course. So this will give them the tools that they need. We're going to be able to graduate young people that will no longer have the crushing debt and have the problems that they do when they're going out in the workplace without this knowledge. So I'm very excited about that. I think all the community is behind us. As you can see, we have many fantastic sponsors that are going to talk to you a little bit more about why they've joined us. And I think the program will be easy to implement, because we will have some very consistent formulas of information that we'll be able to share with our teachers and get out into the classroom. So I hope you'll all join us in supporting this financial literacy money course. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for being here. My name is Maria Sachs, and I'm Democratic Pro Tem for this year. I just came from Education Policy Committee. I'm also on the Education Appropriations Committee, and that is why, one of the reasons why I stand here today in support of my colleague's good bill. Because there is no better way that we can spend our state's education money than in guaranteeing that our students not only will make money in the future, but we'll know how to manage that money. First of all, how to manage a House budget. You notice that you have 3 women legislators in front of you today. And we all know that it is usually the woman in the household that manages the money. Probably we're the one that also makes the money, so that we have to manage it. But it is very, very important that our students learn not just calculus in school and read Shakespeare, but also know how to manage a 401k. So we stand together today knowing that the students that we are educating in our schools in the state of Florida will make money in their careers. But we also need to make sure that they have a basic foundation in how to manage that money. So this is why we all stand together today, knowing and guaranteeing and standing behind the students of the state of Florida and wanting to bring them up to speed with the other great states of this country in having basic financial literacy on how to manage money. So I know this is going to pass. I have great legislators with us. I want to thank especially Senator Dorothy Hugel in earmarking this. We're old colleagues from the Florida House, and our good state representative on this, and we know that it's going to pass. And because why? Because we're banking on the students of Florida. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As noted, the cost of financial illiteracy is not only an impact on individuals and families, but on the workforce and businesses when people come to work and are distracted by trying to manage the impact of financial woes on their family while they're in the workplace. So we're particularly pleased to have the support of the Florida Chamber of Commerce, and I welcome David Hart, Executive Vice President of Government Relations.
Good morning. I'm David Hart with the Florida Chamber of Commerce, and very pleased to be here today to support our partners at the Florida Council on Economic Education. And I want to thank Senator Huckel and Representative Fitzenhagen for your leadership. You know, today in Florida, nearly half of our high school seniors don't understand basic concepts like credit scores, skills like balancing their checkbooks, saving for the future, or the importance of paying loans on time. And why is this important? It's important because financial literacy correlates directly to one's upward financial mobility. And we have not just an opportunity, but we have a responsibility through this legislation to close that gap. Financial literacy, as was said, though, affects more than our students. It affects our businesses, and actually it affects our overall economic health in Florida. So it's critical that we take this step, and again, pleased to support this very good legislation.
Thank you. We learned in our work toward this effort that voices from the financial services industry said it is not good business for them when people pay late fees. It is not good business for when they run up and abuse credit cards and other consumer loans. And so that voice is echoed again today by Anthony DeMarco, Executive Vice President and Director of Government Affairs for the Florida Bankers Association.
Thank you. As stated, I'm Anthony DeMarco with the Florida Bankers Association, and we partnered up with the Council of Economic Education to be part of this, and we want to thank those who worked with us this was at a summit at USF back in August with the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, Bay Cities Bank, as well as the others mentioned. As stated, financial literacy is no longer an option. It is imperative that we teach our young people how to do this, and what they found was part of this curriculum will make a huge difference if we put this in the school system. We understand as bankers that the educated consumer is the best customer we could have. They will best understand the products and services they need from us and other financial service providers. And if they're educated, they can make better financial choices. And when they make better financial choices, they can save better for retirement. They can understand the power of compounding interest. They can understand what happens when you pay only minimum amounts on your credit card balances and when you end up overdrafting your account and have to pay fees for other services. And we think that the best way to do this is through education. If they learn young, through their home and then through the schools, this will best empower them to go forward and to make better decisions and save for their retirement and have better futures, which not only helps the banking industry, but it also helps all of Florida. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. With all due respect to our sponsors in the Senate and the House and our other supporters of our efforts, the next two voices may be the most important voices you hear, for it will be classroom educators who must implement this and can speak to the difference it will make in the lives of their students and their students' families. Our first educator is Mr. Brett Berkey, a 30-year teacher and chair of the Social Studies Department at Spanish River High School in Boca Raton, and also serves as Assistant Director of the Florida Atlantic University Center for Economic Education. Brett was the 2009 Florida Economic Educator of the Year and the 2009 National Economic Educator of the Year. Following Brett is Amanda Geiger, a Leon High School economics teacher, holds a bachelor's in social science education from Florida State University, and is working to blend into her classroom economic instruction developed by our colleagues here at the Stavros Center for Economic Education at FSU. Brett and then Amanda.
So one day in the 1960s, the real world and public education met under a banyan tree here in Florida. And the real world said, we're going to play a game of hide and seek. And the world said, Ed, as he fondly called public education, close your eyes, face this tree and count to 1,000,000. While you're counting, I'll go hide, and when you're done, come find me. Ed said, fun, and dutifully started to count. 1, 2, 3. Meanwhile, the world started to hide. The cost of living began to rise dramatically. The introduction of computers began to change the traditional workplace and the types of job skills desired. The savings and loan and community banking system collapsed, replaced by global financial centers. The use of credit became commonplace, and the sources of credit became algorithmic mysteries. The private pension system with its defined benefit structure is replaced by an employee-centered defined contribution retirement plan. Investment options exploded. The pathway to higher education became prohibitively expensive and competitive. The cost of health care made it unavailable. The definition of home owning as a secure middle-class financial asset went underwater. 999,999, 1 million. Ed opens up his eyes. Here I come, Ed pronounces. Walking past a present standing before him, he begins to look for the world he remembers. The world has no reason to hide because he has become so unrecognizable to his former playmate. We no longer track well with a teller entry passbook or reward you at the end of a career with a gold watch. Yes, that's the nostalgia public education clings to. I am here as both a 30-year veteran in Florida classroom and as a longtime trainer of teachers to compel the legislature to mandate that every graduate from a public school in this state exit with a half credit of personal finance education in their pocket. Every week I implore my students to dismiss the fact that they haven't gone to the prom yet and start thinking about their retirement. But those are empty words if there isn't time to teach them that discipline that will require. The forces of consumerism, after all, are a formidable foe. Thus, barely out of the gate, the average college student today graduates with $30,000 in both student and consumer debt. 60% of college freshmen max out their credit cards by the end of the first year, and colleges and universities report that they lose more students to insurmountable credit card debt than academic failure. Last year, I was thankful when the legislature earnestly reviewed the cause of financial literacy, and while the decision was that it needed to be taught, their ideas on how to do it were confounding. In addition to the ambitious list of concepts that they want us to cover in economics, they added a significant number of personal finance standards on top. Let me dispel the misconception once and for all. Economics and personal finance are not the same thing. And when the expectation is that they are both taught in the same one-semester course, neither one can be done well. Just to give you an idea, in 18 weeks, I'm expected to teach scarcity, opportunity cost, economic systems, market economies, perfect and imperfect competition. You get the idea. I could run on forever. Now, how am I supposed to cover that, as well as banking basements, money management and budgeting, consumer credit, job search skills, and the like? We owe it to our students to not allow any of these concepts to be sacrificed or our instruction to be compromised. Unfortunately, most often, you don't get around to fixing the tracks until there's a train wreck. The Great Recession was our train wreck, and the tracks are in dire need of repair. How can we claim in Florida to offer a 21st century education when we don't even teach 21st century survival skills? The American dream, as many of us remember, used to be the middle-class vision of suburbia. Today, the American dream is to one day get out of debt. How many Florida kids leave high school and never pursue any additional education? High school becomes the last shot to provide them with these invaluable decision-making skills. Can we allow the gap between the haves and the have-nots to get any wider? In a country that has historically prided itself on ladders of opportunity and social mobility, the reality is something quite different. In a recently released study, Florida is one of a handful of states in the southeast U.S. where it is less likely than any other place for children in low-income families to experience upward mobility in their lifetime. Without a chance to immerse them in the benefits of financial literacy, this trend will continue. I stand before you today, an optimist, no less in love with his profession after 30 years of marriage. I believe in the system as the best way to reach students from all levels of vulnerability. I believe in the liberal arts idea of a well-rounded student, but I'm also a pragmatist and realize the old way of doing things no longer serves the ideal. There is a disconnect between the real world and public education that will erode the marketability of our students for the foreseeable future. Please, legislators, make it possible for our students to leave school financially literate and poised for success. Thank you.
Education has always been tasked with preparing students for their future. Teaching our students how to manage their income and make sound decisions with their money is one of the most direct impacts we can have on their future success and happiness. Achieving financial security has as much to do with the choices that we make with the money that we earn as it does with how much money we earn. High school students in particular are reaching an age of responsibility where many are taking on jobs for the first time, are making career plans that will affect their financial futures. It is critical that students receive the training necessary to help them avoid costly financial decisions before they find themselves in financial peril. Media outlets and surveys report time and time again of college graduates, families, and individuals who are unable to escape the burdens of the debt created by their financial choices, or who struggle in retirement because their savings are not sufficient. Most of my students come to me without even a basic knowledge of saving tools, such as certificates of deposits or IRAs. Often they are unaware of the true cost of interest on loans, including student loans and credit cards. They are unsure of what to look for in a bank or how to begin investing their savings. They need to be taught basic personal finance concepts to ensure they begin making sound financial choices early and can avoid learning through painful experience whenever possible. Time is a precious resource in schools, as it is in life. Curriculum demands that we move quickly so that we can cover all concepts in which students are expected to be proficient. Teaching financial literacy is worth the time. It will make a long-term difference in students' lives. Equally important to the instruction students receive is training our teachers and offering support to the schools as they work to implement content that will effectively prepare students for the future. I often tell my students that self-reliant individuals build self-reliant communities, and in doing, create a stronger society. I feel that teaching sound financial principles will not only help the individual student, but will help society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. And before calling on our final speaker, I just want to acknowledge Commissioner Breakspear with the Office of Financial Regulation. Thank you for your support, personal support of our mission and initiatives. Yes, Amanda Geiger with Leon High School. Yes. Yes. Our final speaker is Kay Schmitz with the Florida Prosperity Partnership. Much of the work of the Florida Council is in partnership with those who share like mission, and the vision of the partnership to see that all Floridians have equal opportunities to attain financial stability resounds well with us. Okay?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm with a nonprofit, a statewide collaboration of more than 160 service providers, and we work with the parents of Florida's youth. The parents have not had the opportunity to have financial education in high school, and as a result, 52% of them are only one paycheck away from living in poverty if their source of income is interrupted, and that's up 6% from last year. We're in this work because we know it's the right thing to do, but we're really looking forward to being able to work ourselves out of business by providing financial education to the next generation so that they come into the world without having to face all the financial pitfalls their parents currently do. Thank you. We strongly support it. We thank the senator. We thank the representative. We thank Mike.
Thank you. In closing, one of the major concerns to initiate such a course was the cost. Recent cost analysis conducted by the Florida Department of Education concluded that there are inexpensive options to implementing a course in financial literacy, potentially as low as $140,000 for professional development of teachers. As you can see, a wealth of organizations across the state stand ready to provide curriculum resources, professional development for educators, and to ease in the implementation. Organizations such as the Florida Council on Economic Education, our affiliated university centers for economic education, the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, the Florida College Access Network, State Farm, the Florida Prosperity Partnership, and many of our banking and financial services industry partners. We're experiencing broad-based support for what we've come to call the Money Course, and we're grateful for those who were here today to voice that support. We're grateful for the support of Speaker Weatherford, and we're confident that our sponsors' colleagues will agree that financial literacy for students is a lifetime skill and it is a vital investment. I encourage the press and others to follow our efforts at requirethemoneycourse.com. At that site, again, it's requirethemoneycourse.com. You'll see a white paper published by the Federal Reserve Bank out of our Financial Literacy Summit held in August. You'll see the full cost analysis as conducted by the Department of Education, and you'll see the language of both bills as introduced in the Senate and the House. So I encourage you to follow that. If all Florida students leave school equipped with a solid, standard-based personal finance course, supported by teacher training and course assessment, the next generation of Floridians will truly have the tools they need to manage their money, the knowledge necessary to achieve their financial goals from college to retirement, and the ability to be productive employees and members and contributors to the state's economy. Thank you. And we will be available for questions and answers and photos.
Okay, good. Quick question. Go ahead. Amanda, come on up here and be in a picture with us. Okay, Dorothy? Gonna get a picture here with all of us. Woo-hoo! All right?